Imagine a country so massive it spans 11 time zones, bigger than the moon's surface. Yet it all began with one Viking chieftain, Rurik. Around 862, Slavic tribes invited him to rule. Think about that. When's the last time people begged a Viking to take charge? From Rurik came Kievan Rus, with Kiev as its capital. Yes, Kiev, back in the spotlight today, was the cradle of Russian history. In 988, Prince Vladimir converted his realm to Christianity. Fun fact, he rejected Islam because it banned wine. Priorities, right? That choice bound Russia to Byzantine culture. But unity didn't last long. In the 1200s, a storm from the east crashed down. The Mongols. They burned cities, demanded tribute, and ruled through fear. For 240 years, Russia lived under Mongol shadow. Yet out of that darkness, Moscow rose. By 1380, Dmitry Donskoy struck back at Kulikovo. A small victory, but it lit a flame. And in 1480, Ivan III, Ivan the Great, finally broke free. Russia was independent, but Ivan didn't stop there. He married the last Byzantine princess, claiming Moscow as the third Rome. That's not ambition. That's destiny. Destiny soon turned terrifying under Ivan IV, better known as Ivan the Terrible. He crowned himself the first Tsar, waged brutal wars, and unleashed his oprichnina, black-clad enforcers who made the KGB look soft. Entire cities were massacred. Yet Russia doubled in size. Terror built an empire. But when Ivan died, Russia cracked. Famines, foreign invasions, even imposters pretending to be heirs. This chaos was so bad, it's literally called the Time of Troubles. At one point, Polish troops occupied the Kremlin. Yes, foreigners ruling Moscow itself. From that humiliation, a new dynasty rose, the Romanovs. But their story would be both glorious and tragic. And that launches us into Act 2. Michael Romanov took the throne in 1613. At last, stability. Then came Peter the Great, a 6'7" giant who towered over everyone, literally and politically. He forced Russia into modernity, built a navy, created factories, and yes, he taxed men for keeping beards. Imagine being fined just for looking too old-fashioned. Peter built St. Petersburg on swampy land. Tens of thousands died. He called it a window to the west. People called it a graveyard. Catherine the Great expanded further. She grabbed Crimea, patronized the arts, and hosted Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire. But behind the glitter, millions of peasants remained serfs, legal property of nobles. Can you imagine being owned in the 1700s? This was Russia's great contradiction. Progress on top, misery below. Then came 1812. Napoleon invaded with 600,000 men, Europe's greatest army. Did you know he even brought a silver bathtub for the campaign? He left it behind in the snow. Winter and starvation crushed his army. Only 100,000 crawled home. Russia had beaten the unbeatable. Russia now looked invincible. But inside, it was fragile. Industrialization lagged. When serfs were freed in 1861, they got freedom, but no land. Most ended poorer than before. Imagine being told, you're free, but still starving. By 1900, discontent was boiling, and Tsar Nicholas II had no idea how to handle it. In 1905, Japan, tiny Japan, defeated Russia. The world laughed at the giant with clay feet. Then came Bloody Sunday. Peaceful protesters marched in St. Petersburg. Troops fired. Hundreds dead. That was the day many Russians stopped believing in the Tsar. Still, Nicholas clung to power, but history punishes rulers who refuse to adapt. By 1914, World War I drained Russia dry. Soldiers marched barefoot. Ammunition ran out. Back home, bread vanished. Families starved while nobles dined in palaces. And in the palace, a mystic named Rasputin whispered in the Tsarina's ear. Many thought he was controlling the throne. Newspapers mocked the Tsar. Rumors spread like wildfire. Respect collapsed. In 1917, Bread riots erupted in Petrograd. Soldiers joined the crowds. The unthinkable happened. Nicholas abdicated. 300 years of Romanov rule ended overnight. But Russia wasn't free. It was unstable. And waiting in the wings was Lenin. His message was simple: peace, bread, land. And in a starving nation, those words were dynamite. In October 1917, the Bolsheviks seized Petrograd. Not with tanks, just with willpower and chaos. Russia's monarchy was dead, but something far more radical was born, and that launches us into Act 3. In 1918, the Romanovs were executed in a basement. Even the children. No turning back now. A 1,000-year empire ended with gunfire in the dark. Civil war exploded. Reds versus whites. Brother against brother. Entire towns starved. 5 million died from famine. Imagine a country eating grass just to survive. By 1922, the Soviet Union was born, a bold new experiment. But experiments in power rarely come without blood, and this one was written in rivers of it. Lenin's state promised equality, but delivered control. Opposition crushed. Freedom erased. Still, Russia endured. That's the secret of its history. Survive first, rebuild later. From Rurik's Vikings to Stalin's gulags, one thing never changes. Russia thrives in extremes. Glory and ruin, faith and terror, victory and tragedy, always larger than life. But here's the question. Is Russia's cycle of rise and collapse over, or is the next turning point already waiting? Every empire falls, but Russia? It has a habit of rising again. So, will the future bring another empire or another revolution? That's why its past matters, because it whispers warnings about the future. And maybe, just maybe, it predicts ours too. So tell me in the comments, do you think Russia's greatest chapter is behind it, or still to come? If you're still watching, you're not just scrolling. You're seeking wisdom most people ignore. Because history isn't dead, it's alive, shaping the world right now. And Russia's story proves a brutal truth. Power always demands a price. If you want more stories like this, truths hidden in history, stick around. Subscribe so you don't miss the next journey through the past that still haunts us today. This was the epic history of Russia, from Rurik to revolution. And trust me, this is only the beginning.